A very good morning, a very good afternoon, and a very good evening to all our viewers wherever around the world you're watching us from today. Welcome to the broadcast today. My name is Nishit Kotak. I am part of the team from Hindu Academy. Hindu Academy aims to promote a deeper understanding of modern Hinduism across the world. And to help us all understand Hinduism better, we usually run a Q&A session every Saturday at 2 o'clock UK time, and the session lasts for approximately 1 hour. If you are new to the broadcast, then I will just share with you that the broadcast runs on this format. We usually have a focus topic video. Today, the focus topic is on yoga for the modern world, or Yoga for Humanity, as is the theme for this year's International Yoga Day, which will be on the 21st of June. After we've looked at a little video, which is from Jbai, we will then do a Q&A around the focus topic. And after about 20-30 minutes, we will open up for a general question and answer session on anything to do with Hinduism. Now, how can you get involved? So you may be watching us on Facebook or on YouTube. So you can just enter your questions right into the comments area, and I will pick it up for you and pass it on to the team, and they will be able to answer your questions live on air most of the time, with time permitting. So without any further ado, let me just share the topic of the day today, which is yoga. And I will play the video now and come back just shortly thereafter.
In this tradition, we have come up with an experiment we have placed in front of humanity, saying, look, this idea that your essential nature is a spirit, you may not believe, you may believe, doesn't take you very far. Even if you intellectually sit down and drink cups of coffee and I work it out, yes, it must be real. It doesn't take you very far. You must touch it, touch base with it. We give you an experiment to try out on yourself. If you fail, then you can come and say, this is all nonsense. You put an experiment in front of you. Try it on yourself to see if this is for real, religion for real. All this idea of spirit and eternal soul is for real. Come face to face with it. And this experiment is called Raj Yoga. Now the word yoga means joining together with your essential nature. You know, when people say, what's the closest relationship you can have with anybody? You say, well, you can think of somebody like God as your father in heaven, that's one relationship. You can think of God like your mother in heaven, another relationship. You can think of God as your friend in Hindu religion. You can think of God as a child. You can cuddle. You can think like that as well. All this allowed in Hindu religion. But the closest relationship you can have with anybody, says this religion, is with yourself, your essential self. You seem to have lost sight of your essential nature. Rejoining with your essential nature as a spirit is the journey, is the idea behind it. That's called yoga. Rejoining with your essential nature, rediscovering your essential nature as a spirit, not what we are caught up with. This is called yoga. And it's done very simply. First of all, I'll tell you this. Suppose, you've tried it, I'm sure, to meditate. And you see, you sit down, you close your eyes, you're doing your best not to, scratch your back and everything. You're trying to sit still and hold yourself still. It's marvelous stuff. You're trying to hold yourself still. And in no time, you find that your mind is in a whirl. Do you know what actually happens when you sit down to meditate? You discover what a mess you are. That's all it happens. That's why you become agitated and come out of the medicine. Yeah, it was very good. But he said, oh dear, it was not good at all. I don't know. I was kind of whirling away, and I couldn't hold my mind still for a moment. So when we sit down and try and still our body, and hopefully try and still the mind at the same time, we really discover how bad we are, how our mind is in a huge whirlpool and doesn't stop. So the only thing that happens at the beginning of meditation is you discover how bad you are, or how badly your mental structure is. That's all you discover. So the first aspect of yoga is saying, look, before you are ready to sit for meditation, get your life in order. Unless your daily life is itself structured and ordered, there is no way you'll be able to sit down and still your mind. There's no way. So first requirements of yoga is that in your daily life, there are certain disciplines and observances you must take up and incorporate them in your daily life for many years before you are ready to sit down. Because otherwise your mind is going on like that. And the aim of yoga is very simply this. Look how simple it is. This is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The second and the third aphorism captures whole of yoga. The second aphorism says, yoga simply means holding the mind still. Can you just do that? Just hold the mind still. Because when you hold the mind still, immediately, the moment you are able to do that, even for an instant, you suddenly discern yourself with the spirit and not the body and the mind. You see, I'm separate from the body and the mind. The moment you can hold your mind still for an instant, do you know why we get spiritual glimpses and these free samples? Because while we are doing some routine activity, for some reason the mind becomes still for an instant. And then a greater reality was reflected in it. You don't conjure up a God, you don't conjure up spirituality, that's nonsense, it's an invention then. You don't conjure up, you discover it. And the way you discover it, the moment your mind is held still, even for an instant, you get a glimpse, you say, wow, you rise above your limited vision about yourself. That's why you see a tremendous oneness with whole creation. You say, and that's the experience. Just hold the mind still. But here, this is the easy part, this is the theory.
And so there you go, folks. A very interesting video that we've got, and what a fantastic topic to explore. Yoga is this amazing sort of set of ways of living life, I would say, because you've got mind, body, and I think general wellness, I would say, overall. Now, one thing I really enjoyed from that video was learning how to still your mind. It's almost a next to impossible task to train this monkey mind, because you will find it very, very difficult to start with meditation, as that was my experience. But I suppose as you go down that path and you sort of flex those meditation muscles, you'll be able to calm your mind and bring it under control much faster. Now, to help us get our heads around this topic for today, we've got our team here. We've got Manish Bhai, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. Everybody is on hand to answer your questions around the topic of the day. So as usual, I'll call upon Manish Bhai to carry the conversation forward. Manish Bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Nisir Bhai. Welcome, viewers. Nice to have you again for the live Hindu Q&A session. We have International Yoga Day coming up on 21st June on Tuesday. So we thought a very appropriate topic would be to discuss yoga and it's in the modern life. So without further ado, we start a few questions for Vijay Bhai and Sita Ben, who is here with us today. So the first question is, Vijay Bhai, what is yoga? Yoga is very popular these days, but most people associate with it physical exercise. So first question is, what is yoga and how did it get started?
Okay, I think first of all, to answer the question, what is yoga? The word actually yoga comes from, root word yuj. Yuj means to join. So you can say to join with the essential self. Some people say to join with God. But the key idea is to join with what you truly are, not what you think you are. And that's all yoga is about, yes? So in a sense, I mean, today you see there's many kinds of yogas. I mean, some of the names here are so strange and weird, you don't even know if it's yoga or not. But by and large, I think what the video we just saw describing the idea of Raj Yoga, the yoga that allows you to see your true divine nature. But of course, we have, Hatha Yoga, which means Hatha means to put your body in the duress, where you do exercises to, make yourself physically well. Mind you, you also need that for Raj Yoga anyway. So it's good to do physical exercises. But then you have all these really strange, hot yoga and all kinds of bizarre names coming up. So those are just, spin-off of yoga. I guess yoga is so popular now. People are kind of making their own version of yoga to make some money on the side as well. But by and large, yoga is an experiment, Jai Bhai mentioned, experiment to see, to touch base with the divine, not just hear about it. And that's the key thing, I think, for Hindus, or actually even for, by and large, the other Indic faiths, Jainism, Buddhism, book learning or following a book, faithfully is not the answer. The answer is how to experience the God, divine for yourself. And that's what yoga is about, yeah? And how old is yoga? Yoga, I think, is very ancient. I mean, I mean, as this is Adi Yogi, Shiva is the first yoga, yogi. That's really far. I mean, even as far as Indian civilization, you see pictures of, of Lord, like in the form of a Pashupatinath, like Shiva, meditating. Even at that far behind, you can see images, of iconography of yoga. So yoga is very ancient. It's not something new. So I think the Indian continent has been practicing this idea of reflecting on the self for a very, very long time. Sita?
Yeah, I think you've covered it amazingly. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people associate yoga as being physical exercises, but it's so much more than that. It's about controlling the inner mind, not just the external body, but the inner mind as well. And, as Dad was saying, it's very, very difficult to control the mind. And because I was just reading a few days ago from some of the works of Swami Vivekananda, and he was talking about the state of our mind is like a monkey who's not just a monkey who's already quite active already, but a monkey who is drunk, a monkey who has been stung by a scorpion. So it's completely out of control. Our mind is just completely out of control. And what Swami Vivekananda said is when you start, the initial stage is just to kind of distance yourself from your thoughts. Just watch it like you're watching a film, and all sorts of crazy thoughts will keep popping out of your mind. And the first stage is to just observe, see what a bad state your mind is in to start with. Because first you have to acknowledge the problem and then you can deal with it. So first you take a step back, watch what your mind is doing. And then as you keep doing the practices, then your mind will eventually start to subside and start to calm down the more that you keep practicing. And another sort of crucial element to this idea of yoga is the breathing exercises, because that's the thing which links the external body to the inner workings of ourselves. So you start with, like the big flywheel, you start with the big sort of rudder, you start working with your breathing exercises. And then by controlling your breath, you're able to control the finer and finer motions inside. So through this very external, very tangible process of controlling your breathing, you're able to then focus on the inner workings and have greater control over the inner workings, including your mind and keeping your mind still. And it's an incredibly long process. It's a difficult process, but it's an experiment that we have within Hinduism, like a scientific experiment, saying this is the theory, this is the hypothesis, and this is the potential result is when you become enlightened. So it's a challenge for all of us. If you want to take a scientific approach to making spiritual progress, here is a scientific experiment. See if it works. If it doesn't work, as Dad said in the video, then put your hands up and say, well, this is rubbish. It's totally your prerogative to be able to do that. That's the wonderful thing about Hinduism, is we're incredibly open about these things. If you think it doesn't work for you, no problem. But if it does work, it's an incredible journey of spiritual growth and development. And you have to go through a whole series of mental disciplines, like truthfulness and cleanliness and purity and all of these things. And the wonderful thing is, even if you just take one of these qualities and make it your life's mission to be completely truthful or completely celibate or whatever one of the disciplines that are highlighted, you will have led an incredibly focused and disciplined life. So even if you're able to take a tiny fraction of this yoga system and implement it in your life, you will have led an incredibly valuable and productive life. So there's a lot of meaning to unpack from the whole yoga system.
Thank you, Sitaben, Vijay, wonderful answers to what yoga is about. So in a nutshell, yoga is a self-experiment to discover our true nature, true identity. And it's been around for a long time. And as you know, most people will say, okay, what is the reference books? Where is the source of knowledge from our yoga? Do we have any good books on yoga? And where do we go to find out more about yoga?
Well, the obvious source for yoga is the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, where Patanjali is the one who sort of, developed this system, laying out 8 steps called Ashtanga. And in the first 2 steps, you just focus on mental disciplines. You're not even considered fit to be able to sit down to meditate. As we said, as soon as anyone sits down to meditate, they see what a mess their mind is in. So first it says, sort out the mess in your mind through all of these disciplines. And then it goes through a whole process of how you should sit, the posture that you should use to sit, how you should sort of generate all the energy that you have and focus it onto one object or one mantra, all of these things. But actually, rather than going all the way back to this very ancient book, I really recommend going back to somebody who has actually done this experiment in recent times and who is able to express it in English in a way that we all can relate to. And that's Swami Vivekanand. He's done an incredibly elaborate work on the whole Patanjali yoga system. And he actually went through the steps that Patanjali laid out, saying, first do this, then do this. He used to go into meditation and follow the steps, and then he would come out of that step, and then he'd have a stenographer write down what he found and what he experienced. So what an incredible place to go in a modern prophet who has gone through the yoga system in this way and found it to be a success. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I think by and large, that's the best reference to look into the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It's quite interesting that even before Patanjali, the idea of the Sankhya Darshan, which for the first time philosophically explains the idea that the Purusha, which is our true nature, is separate from the, Prakriti, matter. And that is the philosophy. And actually Patanjali, through this experiment, actually vindicates that idea which Sankhya Darshan by Kapil Muni actually proposes. So it's a beautiful experiment to show that we are actually not part of the matter and the mind. We're actually separate from that. But if you read the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I mean, I've read the same works of Swami Vivekananda. The commentary is fantastic, but it's not that easy to do. I mean, if you look at the yams and niyams, the 10 basic commandments, as Sita mentioned, they're very, very hard to do. So as Jay Bhai mentioned, it takes many years of discipline, practice, life. I'll give you some examples because I was looking at them and I don't think I do any of them, to be honest, at the moment. I mean, think about, like they say, ahimsa, non-violence. Okay, you may not do anything physically, but you have in your mind anger, right? It doesn't help. Truthfulness. I mean, how many times do we lie? Even fibs, little bit. And Astya, non-stealing. And I think, hold on a minute, I don't steal. But actually, if you look closely, even that's very hard. I'll give you some examples. Like I take a pen from work because, it's a stationery cupboard and I use it at home. That's stealing, if you look at it careful, right? Or if you download a song from YouTube and put it in your car, and okay, that's stealing. So we do so many things like that. We don't realize. We think, oh, it's the norm. But quite often, even those are really hard. So the life you lead is so disciplined. Once you lead the kind of life, everything else falls in place automatically. But that's the trick part. How do you discipline life and follow these yams and niyams? And that's kind of, and by the way, as Sita mentioned that in the worst case, you lead a disciplined life. In the best case, you find your true self. So you can't actually lose by doing yoga. If for the Patanjali Yoga, you can never lose. Either way, you basically win. So it's worth trying to go down that experiment anyhow, because the yams and niyams are so powerful. Even if you follow some of them, even one of them, I can tell you, if you follow one of them to dot, others will automatically fall in line as well. It's a beautiful experiment. I mean, it makes you feel that living a truly spiritual life anyway for these 10 yams and niyams. But the whole experiment is quite amazing. If you go through there's the 4 chapters, Sadhana Pad, Vibhuti Pad. All these pads are really quite nice and very beautiful done. The other thing I would encourage is that there's a channel called Sanskrit channel on YouTube. I forgot the name of the person who runs it. He reads the entire Patanjali Yoga Sutra out in Sanskrit, and it's so beautiful. It can actually really grasp you and understand what this Yoga Sutra is about. By the way, something else to mention is that by and large, out of, I think there's 4 or 5 works which are seen to be written in perfect Sanskrit. And Patanjali Yoga Sutra is one of them, which are basically almost near perfect Sanskrit. So one of the most beautiful works in Sanskrit you'll ever come across. So if you get a chance to have a look at it, please do.
Wonderful to hear about Patanjali Yoga Sutras and how wonderful it is, and it's perfectly scripted. So one question is, we in the West and I think even in India, what has become more popular is this yoga exercise, the postures, and they are really beneficial for health benefits. Is it good to focus on these exercise for the physical benefits only, or and would they then, if you practice that, would that lead you to further spiritual progress, Vijay bhai?
So of course you do need a healthy body, right? So I mean, you don't need to do yoga. It's good for your body, obviously. But the question is, if you're doing that yoga only for healthy body, so you can show off your nicely toned body on the beach or something, then perhaps that's not the final aim. Of course, if you have a healthy body, then you can sit in a good posture and meditate. Because if your health is not good, you can't even sit properly, and you can't sit still because after 2 minutes your back starts aching. So by and large, you need a healthy body. So it's good to do that exercise, but the aim is to have a healthy body so you can go to the next step, sit in a proper posture, as the yoga asana, go to padmasana, that you can actually help you meditate. And there's one thing interesting because I was reading also how to sit. You can't be too tight. You can't be too, droop legs. Nice, good, simple posture, straight posture with proper cross leg. If you're hurting already by the time you sit down, then it's a non-starter, right? But I would suggest that if you have health issues, do it in a chair. But please do something, right? But I mean, anyway, so the idea is to have a good, healthy body. So that's why it's necessary for to do those exercises. So there's a good benefit for that as Asita.
Yeah, no, I think you've covered it amazingly. So they say that the head, neck, and backbone must be in a straight line in order to practice meditation. And as Vijay Bhai said, if you're not physically fit, you're not going to be able to sit for long periods of time for meditation. And that's why they say first do hatha yoga and physical exercises. But a lot of people just leave it at that because we're living in such a materialistic way of life, and we think that having a physically fit body means that then I can live a longer life and then enjoy all the material life for longer. Whereas the whole aim of yoga is, oh no, not that. Yes, have a nice long life, but then use that long life not just for material gain, but for spiritual gain. And that's why it's incredibly important to have a physically fit body. And then you can then focus on the inner working. So sort out your outside first, and then you can focus on the inner sort of disciplines. And that's why I was saying with the idea of breathing as well, I'm sure it has a number of health benefits as well, the pranayama that you do as you sit down to meditate. It helps to focus your energy. It helps to focus and get everything in line inside you. It's so incredibly important to have everything in alignment. Even from what you think, what you say, what you do, physically, everything is in alignment. And then it's almost like, it reminds me of like looking in a microscope. You get all your lenses in the right position, and then you get a clear focus as to the nature of reality. Because right now we're seeing everything in a complete fuzz. Everything is a complete haze. We're rushing from one place to another, and half not really knowing what's going on. Whereas a practice like meditation and yoga really focuses our lenses so we can look at the microscope of reality and really see everything in the beautiful depth of spirituality that it is. Because right now everything is, it seems to be real, but then when you sort of hit on that spiritual experience, even if it's for a second, you just feel, oh, there's so much more to this world than I thought I was experiencing my whole life. And it makes you think, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? It's just an incredible glimpse. And I know that my dad has mentioned previously, I think he spoke to a priest many years ago, and he said that, he was walking along the coast of the sea, and then he suddenly had this moment where everything felt tremendously calm and beautiful. And you can't even put words to it. Even calm and beautiful are not enough to express the beauty of that moment. And then you want that moment again. So he tried to go to the sea at the same time and replicate it, but it never works that way. Sometimes your mind just kind of hits the jackpot when you're so incredibly focused on an activity, to the point where, you forget yourself, you forget that you are this body and mind. And then everything holds still for that second, and you just feel, wow, that's really what it's all about. So yoga is not about getting those fleeting glimpses. It's about doing it in a disciplined way so that you can actually hit the jackpot and not just get it for that fleeting second. You can get it for longer periods of time and feel tremendous bliss.
Wonderful, Sitaben, Vijay. So we've had some viewers saying they were not even aware of International Yoga Day. I don't think we were aware of that as well. I just came across that. I think someone was advertising, and that's how we came across, and we thought it's best to talk about yoga. But is it? It's a wonderful idea to have a special yoga day where we. International Yoga Day to celebrate this wonderful Indian practice that is so closely linked with spirituality. What do you think, Sitaben?
Yes, it's so incredible to be able to have a period like a day which reminds us that, hang on, we should focus our energies not on just rushing around and earning a living and looking after our family, but trying to do something for our spiritual benefit, for our spiritual gain, beyond just the physical exercises. A lot of people think that's all there is to yoga, but actually having an opportunity to think a bit deeper about yoga and see what it's all about, and see that actually it's a real tangible way that we can all try and make spiritual progress. Because when you think about the idea of making spiritual progress, it sounds so incredibly woolly, and I don't really know where to start, and it seems very scattered. But the yoga system offers us a systematic and structured way that we can go about making that physical as well as spiritual progress, and really lead good, productive and focused lives. The whole purpose of our life is to sort of become focused and not live in a blur, but see everything and do everything in as clear and tangible a way as we can. Because when you do something scattered or you don't do a proper job, you never feel very good about it. But it's when you focus your mind so purely on that one thing that you're doing, and you come out of it, you feel so incredibly good about yourself. And that's essentially what yoga is promoting, just living a focused life where you focus your energies on spiritual progress or meditation or breathing, and you come out of that experience feeling uplifted. Vijay?
Yeah, I think, Sita, you've got it pretty well. All I can add is that, yeah, it's sometimes referred as Ashtanga Yoga as well, the 8 limbs of yoga. As Sita mentioned, it's very structured. It tells you step by step, you start meditating posture, then breathing exercise, then focusing exercises. And then you have all these different kind of steps. It's 8 limbs. So it's very nicely structured the way Patanjali has explained it. So you have to go through all these different steps. And as you progress, then eventually come to see your true nature. So by and large, it actually makes you focused first. So it knows very well, if Patanjali just makes you sit and start yoga, you will not succeed. That's why it's got all these steps to do. Yams, niyams, sit down. As Sita mentioned earlier, how to practice breathing. The way you practice breathing, the way you sync it with your body is very important to make you focus, and so on and so forth. So it's a very beautiful experience, very nicely structured. Otherwise, if you just let somebody go into yoga, that, what do you do? It doesn't work like that, yeah. So it's nicely structured. That's all I can add to that, Manish Bhai. Yeah.
So, Vijay Bhai, I think Sitaben also mentioned this pranayam is a very important part of this yoga practice. What is pranayam? How does it help with this practice of yoga?
So the idea of prana is your life force, basically, yeah. So the thing is, our life force, which drives our body, that has to be controlled, right, and synced. And that's why prana is very, very important. The idea of pranayam, the way you sit, the way you synchronize your body. Because if you don't sync with nature, sync with how you breathe, all that is so important. Because then your life force is in control, and how you get the life force working properly. So pranayam is one of the most important steps. So I think by and large, if you just meditate, even if your mind, you run around, you don't breathe properly, you just, because as you think about things, you get anxiety, you start thinking, as Jay mentioned, as you close your mind, the monkey starts jumping up and down. Oh no, I forgot to do this. I should have done this job yesterday. I have to go and pick my children. I don't know. All this starts jumping in. And of course, then your brain doesn't go in line anymore. So everything is messed up. So how do you control your life force and discipline it first? That's so crucial. By the time you study breathing force and then you focus on it, other things will wither away and give you more chance to focus on what your real goal is. So that's why, Patanjali was very clear. He exactly knew what to do and how to get you to discipline yourself, even for the moment you start meditating. And the idea of pranayam is very, very crucial. And I think also not only that, it's also very good for health too. So you see, again, you can't lose, you always win, right? Sita?
Yeah, no, I think there's so much power to breathing. We always sort of underestimate it. And, you know, if you look at the pattern of breathing that we have in our day-to-day life, it's very irregular. It's not focused at all. But through the practice of this pranayama meditation, we're able to sort of get everything in line inside of us. And I think it's so also linked to this idea of the Kundalini. So, you know, the sort of energy sort of rises through our spine. So away from the base and then further and further higher up to the point where, you know, you can sort of see, you know, a super conscious state. You know, you can sort of get a picture as to not just the crass material world that we are experiencing right now, but your energy levels are raised and you kind of get to see a different vibration. You know, we're living on a certain level of vibration, a very crude vibration because in the material world. But then through the practice of pranayama, we're able to, you know, our Kundalini is awoken and we're able to sort of get through higher and higher up our body through our spine and then eventually to our head. And that's when you sort of hit the jackpot of enlightenment, because that's a super conscious state. Because right now we're living in a fuzzy, semi-conscious state. And in our dream state, it's even worse. But then through this, we are able to raise our level of consciousness and see the true nature of reality for what it really is. And then when you look back, you think, oh, I was just living in a dream all this time. And through the practice of breathing, we're able to reach that state. And I think that's amazing.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben Vijay. We have some questions coming in. So regarding the food, does the food we eat affect the yoga practice? And this question is related to a new question that's come about from the Pi Life. Is saying vegetarianism seems to be a natural consequence of rising in conscious awareness. It is said that adopting a more sattvic constitution is good for your dharma. But is this specific? What of Ram? So I'm mixing the questions, but does the food we eat affect our practice of yoga? And is the more sattvic food better for practice of yoga? Sitaben?
Yeah, I mean, even in a common sense way, if you sort of focus your diet on foods which are heavy and fatty and greasy and all of these unhealthy things, you feel naturally rubbish afterwards. So even you don't even need to refer to any kind of scripture about that. Any foods which are sort of lighter, more nutritious, more balanced, they are the foods which encourage better physical health, which will then enable you to sit down and meditate. If you just had a whole plate of chips and you sit down to meditate, you're not going to be able to focus. You just want to crash and watch TV or something. So yeah, obviously focusing on foods which are beneficial to your body, which are lighter. And I think there are some guidances as to sattvic kinds of foods which you should try to eat. I'm sure that they make a great difference to your physical well-being, but also your mental state as well, because those kind of foods, fatty and sugary foods, they make you feel lethargic and lack of energy. But if you have sattvic foods, they make you feel lighter and refreshed and more active, and you want to do something positive with it. So yes, definitely, I think food does have an impact on that. And I don't know how true it is, but they also say that the attitude of the person making the food can also have an effect. So, if you make the food in a sort of grumpy way, it might have an effect on the person eating it. But if the food is made lovingly, then I'm sure that also has a very positive impact. And that's why I think people always rave about their mother's cooking, because it's always done in such a loving way. And they can probably feel it. I don't know how, on a metaphysical level, but that love is probably there. Vijay?
No, I mean, what I can add is that I think by and large, what I've read about yoga is most kind of yoga commentaries I've read, they say that Patanjali actually encourages vegetarianism as practice yoga. And as a matter of one of the yams, I think niyams is actually, the yams is the idea of non-violence, ahimsa. So try and do as little violence as possible. And one way is, of course, to practice vegetarianism. But of course, I mean, even if you're not a vegetarian, I would still say do practice yoga, and I think most people do anyway. So I think, so in a way, food you eat, as Sita mentioned, really does impact. If you eat really heavy food, it happens to me as well. If I eat heavy food, then you just feel sleepy afterwards. And you're not going to be able to sit straight, you'll fall sideways. If you sit for yoga, it won't just work. But I mean, by and large, I think you want to have a clean, healthy body and a clean, healthy mind. So eating food which are light, mainly vegetables, I guess that really help in the idea of practicing your yoga. Yeah.
So, Vijay, by one term we use is sattvic food. What is sattvic food? Is all vegetarian food a sattvic food? Or are we talking something else?
Okay, so by and large, the sattva, these are the three gunas which are actually given to us by Sankhya Darshan again. Very powerful three words, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. And you'd be surprised, they apply to everything in this universe. No matter what you look at, any object at a physical level, mental level, spiritual level, dietary level, these three words are very powerful, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, yes. And as a matter of, we do even say that these three forces are the forces that come out of Prakriti when creation happens, the primary forces. And if you look at the Gita as well, they're used everywhere. It says, born of nature, forces of nature, and they mean these three things. It's actually an entire chapter, I think chapter 14 or something, based only on the three gunas in Gita, entire chapter. It's a very powerful idea. So the idea of sattvic is thing that keeps you calm, content, balanced in any idea, doesn't matter what you do. So in terms of food, sattvic foods, by and large, it is said that eating sattvic foods like, vegetables, mind it depends. If you're a Bengali, then fish is sattvic as well. So really you have to kind of think of it. But by and large, vegetable food, like even vegetables, some are not, some are more like, chilies, you have, some people say onion and garlic, which are strong vegetables. They won't see them as sattvic. They say they are like rajasic foods, right? But things like, gourd or like peas or, simple food like, maybe potatoes, some calming, very basic foods, or even some grains, they are seen as sattvic. So again, if you look at different books, I have read a while back, they categorize food differently. But I think by and large, most people say that strong vegetables, you can smell strong, like asafoetida, strong chilies, onions, garlic, even the vegetables, they say they're actually not sattvic. So it depends how you look at it, yeah. But by and large, having a simple diet, simple healthy diet is of course good for you. So you can't lose again if you practice, simple diets, yeah. Asita?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the thing is, like, on a sort of evolutionary, looking at it from an evolutionary perspective, we are sort of, hardwired to always choose foods which are fatty, sugary, all the things that are bad for us. And you can understand that the reasoning behind it is because we had very limited food supply. So we had to sort of, stockpile it wherever we had the chance to. But now we're living in a world where we don't need to hunt and gather anymore. We're living in a world where the supermarket is down the road and you can get as much sugary, fatty food as you like. So the environment has changed and our genes and our hardwiring hasn't really changed. So we need to sort of have that sort of control over ourselves. Everything is out there to eat whatever we want, but having that self-discipline and that control to eat foods which are very, very good for you can really, which may seem boring and may seem like I don't want to have this, but they're the foods that can really sort of help you feel lighter and more energetic and wanting to do something productive with your time. Just it reminds me very much of what Dad used to say when he was meditating while he was at university. He said that all he used to do was just cook some khichdi and eat that. And that's all he would eat. And it's incredible, such a healthy, simple diet, but that really helped him with his meditation. So yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that. That was my turn to jump in. So I think we've covered quite a lot of ground on this topic. And just to sum it up, maybe if I ask a rapid fire round of questions, one by one, Manish bhai, feel free to jump on this because I know you have some experience with yoga as well. So I'll ask the first question. I'll just ask one by one. So Manish bhai, what is yoga to you?
Yoga to me is a it's a journey, and it's staying healthy as well as connecting with that inner nature. It's a practice which would lead me to where I want to go, the ultimate goal, I think.
Brilliant. So it becomes almost like a way of life for you, right? Sitaben, how is yoga different from meditation?
So yoga is actually meditation. It's just focusing on different aspects of your being. So some yoga, which everyone associates with, is the physical side of it. But there's a whole other dimension to it, which is the spiritual development that is an essential part of the yoga system.
Brilliant. So now, as we know, there are various parts, various sections of yoga. As rightly said, the physical one is the most popularly known or practiced one. But Vijay Bhai, do I have to practice all the principles of yoga to benefit from it?
So all I would say is that do as many as you can, and just this all-round benefit, because it's a journey. So we do everything we can to move towards the journey, but it's difficult to do all of them, to get all of them. But mind you, having said that, Patanjali is very clear. The yams and niyams have to be fulfilled before you actually get successful. So the yams and niyams has to be reached. And those are very hard to do. Yes.
Okay. So I know we may have inspired a few people who were not aware of this day and why it's celebrated, etc. But maybe if we've inspired a few people and they're new and they've never done yoga before, but they want to start off now, where would I start, Manish Bhai?
I think starting with bit of exercise, even some yoga exercise, or joining some meditation class would help, because it's trying to get that and get a feel of it, what it's like to sit down, do some exercise, and even do some of these pranayam, breathing exercise, to feel how it feels like. And there you get the some idea of what it is. And we've got videos by Jay Bhai. He's done Raj Yoga videos, and we got a playlist especially showing. So you could watch some of these videos and get the idea how to practice. So I would say try to start doing something, whichever, and look at other materials to see how you can progress with it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So with modern tech, we've now talked about videos. There are apps out there that can help you. They show you how to do the asanas and all of that. But Sitaben, how often and for how long should one do the asanas?
It's very sort of dependent on you and your availability, your time, what your routine is like, and what your physical aptitude is like as well. So it's a very sort of personal journey that you have to make. I think the important thing is just ensure that you do it regularly, because the more regularly you do it, the better you'll become, the more sort of established you'll become in your physical health, and then be able to sit down to meditate.
Super. So it's one thing to do self-learning and teach yourself how to do yoga, but then you may get it wrong, and that may not help you in your health, because you mess it up and it could injure you actually rather than helping you. So it's always nice to have an instructor or some sort of a class. So Vijay Bhai, the question is twofold. One is, can I do the asanas myself with the help of a yoga or a video or an app? And the second question is, are yoga classes safe?
Oh, it'd be very, okay, interesting questions. Question one, about doing it yourself. I mean, you have to understand that it is the basics you must learn. How to sit in a proper straight line, how to, start meditating, otherwise you'll run all over the place. But of course, having a guru does help, no doubt, or a nice video. But problem is there's so many videos out there which are kind of, so self-centered that I'm not sure they're really helping you. So it's not that easy to find a good video. They'll also be good at that, but they all have a slight slant. And by the way, most of the yogas nowadays are copyrighted from what I hear. They were copyrighted from America, wherever, and it's like bizarre situation you have. But by and large, I would say just for the basic principles of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And if you follow those, I think you can start off. But yeah, you can do it yourself, but I think guru would help, of course. Somebody who's a practitioner would help to make sure you do everything correctly.
So Manish Bhai, when you think of yoga in the modern world here, in the Western world, you think of a yoga studio, you think of a yoga mat, you need your yoga clothes, etc., etc., But do you really need any special equipment for yoga?
No, that's the wonderful thing. All you need is something to do yoga on, and it's all the exercise. There is no other thing required.
Fabulous. Sitaben, keeping in line with the rapid fire thing, we've got a couple of more questions, and I think that will sort of sum up and wrap up the topic for us today. Do you have any other helpful guidelines for the practice of yoga?
Yeah, I think as Vijay Bhai said, it is actually really important to have the guidance of a qualified teacher. The key word is qualified, because there's all sorts of charlatans out there. So having a qualified teacher, because especially when you're doing stuff like breathing exercises and you do it wrong, it can really mess you up physically. So having a qualified teacher is incredibly important. And having that regularity is also incredibly important. So make sure you set aside that 10 minutes every day, or however long it is. Start with 5 minutes, but make sure it's regular. Otherwise, the progress is just going to be scattered.
Fabulous. And I know we touched upon this question earlier, but I'm going to wrap it up. So I'm going to bring it in as the FAQ questions as well on yoga. Do I need to be on a vegetarian diet to benefit from yoga? Vijay Bhai.
No, I mean, please do yoga even if you're a vegetarian. You still benefit, no doubt. But what I can say is that it is encouraged to be, most scholars I know encourage for you to be vegetarian. But even if you're not a vegetarian, yoga is good for you anyway. So please do it, yes.
Fabulous. So we know when Jay Bhai, was telling us before, he told us how he had been able to journey, through his journey in meditation. He said he's had some amazing experiences before. So Manish Bhai, if one wanted to get to that level, would you be able to explain how meditation is practiced?
Very difficult question. I don't think I can answer that question. I'm not qualified, I would say.
No, it's fine. Look, we're here to answer it honestly, and that's an honest answer. Can't ask for more than that. We don't make things up. Does anybody want to have a go at this?
Oh, it is constant practice. I mean, I have, as Manish Bhai said, I have an experience, so I can't really qualify to go on that. But constant practice, discipline, and what, as you follow the prescription given Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I haven't done it, so I can't really say, but hopefully that will take you to the destination.
Fabulous. Last question to wrap this up. Sitaben, I know we've done this question again. I'm coming back to it just because it's part of the FAQs I had in mind. What is pranayam?
Yes, so pranayam is breathing exercises, and that's just the best way to sort of start getting that handle on, your physical body, having that sort of control over your physical body. And as we said earlier, if you start with something tangible and obvious like breathing, then it helps to control the inner workings, the finer and finer inner workings, to the point where you are aligned physically and mentally. So it has a tremendous power, which we always tend to underestimate.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, all three of you, for sharing that with us. Viewers, I hope that has sort of helped you understand the importance of yoga, what it is, why we need it, and why I suggest that you look into it and start practicing it today. Look into it further if you haven't looked into it before, and please do share with us details about how your journey in yoga has gone as you progress along. Now, before I pass it back to Manish Bhai, I'd like to just have a quick show of our sort of resources. For those of you who are new to our broadcast, we do have a really good Basics of Hinduism e-learning course. We've got about 8,000 students. Like I say every week, I'd like to see it reach 10,000. So yeah, please, I would encourage you to sign up if you haven't signed up yet, because it's a lovely course. There's about 100 questions to answer at the end to test you on your newfound knowledge on the basics of Hinduism. Another resource we have, which Manish Bhai mentioned, is our YouTube channel. And thanks to you all, you can see we've crossed 4,000 videos on the channel. So you will be able to find something that will be there for your viewing pleasure. And they will be neatly organized into playlists over here. So you can see meditation, and there will be more playlists that you can use and enjoy as well. We also have our Hindu Academy website, where you can have a few other resources. We've got the e-learning books that we've got in PDF format, and these again will help you learn more about Hinduism. So feel free to drop by to our website and download the books for your viewing pleasure, and you can share them with your friends and family as well. Manish bhai, back to you.
Thank you, Nisit bhai. Wonderful set of question and answers. Some very tough, but there you go. So we had a question, just trying to get it up there. So Saurabh Jadhav saying, though yoga has been invented or discovered in India, most of yoga centers in India are USA certified. The worst fact is they are teaching yoga the wrong way and inventing their own addition to it. What is your take on that, Vijay bhai?
Oh, I mean, unfortunately, this is the problem. There's the power of marketing, right? People, when you tell them, read the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and they go, oh, and all this. But somebody puts a very nice flashy ad, look, with all this, nice healthy bodies and nicely people doing yoga on a video. Oh, I won't do that. I won't do that. Oh, by the way, you got to pay some money for that, right? And this is the true yoga. So everybody's promoting their own kind of version of true yoga. Unfortunately, all I can say is the power of marketing is so strong. People are getting pulled with that. And it's not that difficult. I mean, yoga is, well, it's difficult to do, but the principles are universal, right? It doesn't have to be taught, grabbed. And the worst thing is people are not just certified. So I know in the US, even I know some people in India who say, oh, unless you're certified, Iyengar yoga or something, I won't go to it. And a lot of this certified in America, so it just shows the power of marketing. But unfortunately, that's how things are. So I'm not sure we can do much about it. But all we can do is just promote Patanjali as a true, source of yoga. Sita.
Yeah, I think that's the battle that we all face. We're just having to battle against all these commercial forces, which are incredibly powerful. And, they've got all the resources to make, as Vijay bhai said, colourful, flashy adverts, which seem very attractive. But they focus on the wrong aspect of yoga, in the sense that they just focus on the physical side of it, just so that you can live longer and have a healthier life, to live a more materialistic lifestyle. Whereas yoga is so much more than that. So if you are a genuine seeker, hopefully you won't be taken in by these ads, and you'll find the true, genuine source from people who are not going to charge you loads of money, and people who genuinely want to help you.
Okay, coming back to that question, Pi Life had asked. He was saying the leading the Sattvic life and to try to practice yoga in daily life and ahimsa. This is good for dharma, but is this pacifist, or is it going to make you pacifist? And he's saying, what about Rama, or what about the situation where you have to fight for your rights and maybe stand up strong and fight? Is yoga going to lead you to be more, gentle and totally non-violent, and hence it's not good for the family life? Should I say? What's your take on it, Sidhavin?
Yeah, I mean, I think ahimsa can get misunderstood, because a lot of people think, oh, it means, make sure I don't hurt anybody. I mean, yeah, of course it means don't hurt anybody and all of that, but it never says roll over and play dead and let people walk all over you. That's not what ahimsa and the whole yoga system is all about. Ahimsa is just making sure that you have reverence for life. But if you see a situation in front of you which needs dealing with, make sure you roll up your sleeves and fight. That's what Dad always says, roll up your sleeves and fight and do the right thing. And that's what dharma, or righteous living, is all about. And having practices like yoga, as opposed to making you weak and passive and all of that, actually can generate a tremendous amount of inner strength within you, to the point where you are then able to face difficult situations and stand up for yourself, because you have to stand up for yourself. You are the spirit. So if you roll over and play dead, then what's the point? You're not demonstrating that you're the spirit. Show the spirit within yourself. And that's what the yoga system is all about, is getting that inner strength so you can deal with all of these kind of issues. So we have to make sure we don't misunderstand it. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think Sita, you've got it pretty well. I mean, yes, I've been told as well, to be honest, that, oh, Vijay, eat all these simple diets. You need some good meat in you, to get to be stronger and more aggressive and fight it out in the real world. Yes. But look, dharma means also living, righteous living and doing your duty. So while it's good to have, sattvic life, which is all good, but when the time comes, if you need to stand up and fight, then you should do that. Yeah, that is part of dharma too. But I think having a disciplined life, as Patanjali recommends, will ultimately sit as a really benefit you anywhere, regardless. But I mean, as I said, Hindus will not fight, but ultimately, if the need comes, then they will stand up and they will stand up and fight for his right. Yeah, the key is fight for the right thing. That's all I can add to that, Manish bhai.
Thank you for clarifying that, Sitaben Vijay. That hopefully is cleared some people's misunderstanding on that. We've got some 2-3 questions from Sujata Venugopal. Welcome to the show, Sujata. She's asked, she's saying we should bring in a monk, a Buddhist monk, to debunk that Hinduism and Buddhism are not that different. And she's also asked if we should bring in Meenakshi Jain debunking Sati Pratha. We can debunk Sati Pratha ourselves. We don't need another person to bring in. So anything on Sati Pratha, Vijay bhai?
I think Sati Pratha, to be honest, I think by and large, it's become a culture. It was a cultural thing. There is no, I mean, there's only 1 or 2 very small references in the vast literature we have, right? So I think we have to be careful that by and large, because it's used as a kind of patriarchal society, we use to suppress. That is not with religion. It's to do with the fact that it's patriarchal society. So be very careful. So I think the thing is that Sati Pratha has been taken out, and then by the time the British came, it was blown out all of proportion. It's now been the case in my community. So when you see that the way they promote the thing is all of India was doing it, which is not true. They're very isolated cases anyway. But the main thing to remember is that just 1 or 2 cases doesn't, in the scriptures we have vast. You can't pick it as, oh, there's no Hinduism. It doesn't work like that. So by and large, the Sati Pratha thing has been seen as promoted to score points. But really speaking, it's something that very obscure, very rare. We should really think about it. I mean, that's the line to take on this. Sita?
Yeah, I think you've covered it amazingly. Thank you. Nothing more to add.
Yeah. And the other question, Manish, what's the question?
We are close to the hour, so we'll take one last question. The Invincible has asked, can you please tell me astrology actually work? Now, when we read, open any newspaper, most newspapers will have a horoscope section. Now, one of the professor did an interesting experiment. He took some, cuttings of the newspaper, gave to everyone and say, okay, how many people is true? And half the class went up is true. And then they exchanged with each other. Everybody had the same. And so 50% was saying it's true for me. And so it's a pot of luck, is it not? Astrology an exact science? Can it tell exactly what it is, or is it just like fluff and not very exact? Vijay bhai?
So the thing is this. Look, there's a couple of things here. First of all, I personally don't believe in it. But if you look at when I read the stars sometimes, I read all of them. I'm Aquarius, right? All of them actually fit to me somehow or the other. It doesn't have to give me that word. They all kind of fit to some extent. They're so vague and so nicely worded. It's the power of language, you see. So I think it was Wittgenstein who said language can be a very powerful tool. So this is what happens, right? We read the word and it's, oh yeah, it fits to me. But one thing I must mention is that actually astrology is actually Jyotishri is part of one of the 6 parts of Vedas. And the reason why it's part of Vedas is because Hinduism has always believed that we are part and parcel of nature. And what nature happens, nature impacts us some way or the other. But having said that, there is no specific impact only to you. You feel that you are special, some star will affect you, so only you. It doesn't work like that. But the Jyotishri, which people teach, I've talked to some scholars, they said that it's because Hinduism has never been separate from nature. Unlike, in the Judeo-Christian tradition where the humanity is separate from nature. That's why we have all these problems in the world today, because we don't see nature as something, alive. We see it as something we have to consume. And that's something I think we have picked up as well, Indic faith. But by and large, they're part of nature. So seeing us connected to nature is seen as part of the idea of Jyotish astrology. But I think we have to be very careful that we don't take it far and say that, oh, this particular star impacts only me and only me. I've seen people wearing 6 rings, with opal stone, sapphire stone, this one. And because these stones give me special power from the universe. I mean, are you that special really? Come on, I mean, either it impacts everybody or not everybody else. So I think we have to be very careful how we see this. There's a field of study, how it links to nature, fine. But when you start taking it serious and taking yourself, I personally would not recommend. But hey, don't have a go at me. If you want to do it, do it. Sita.
Yeah, I think astrology is one of those things you turn to when you're when you're feeling vulnerable, when you feel like you're lacking something in your life, and people then turn to something like astrology because they're hoping that there's something along the line for them which will fulfill their desire or whatever it is. And it really reminds me of what Swami Vivekananda says: anything that makes you feel weak and powerless, reject like poison. And unfortunately, astrology can make you weak. It can make you feel like you're completely powerless. You're not in control of your life. Your life is being dictated by rocks in the sky. And Vivekananda says, don't let rocks in the sky dictate your life. Roll up your sleeves and say, I'm going to dictate the pattern of the rocks in the sky. So anything which makes you feel empowered, follow your heart and do that. Anything that makes you feel weak, like astrology, please don't go down that path. It's superstitious and makes you feel completely out of control of your life. So please do not go down that pathway is my humble request.
Fabulous. Look, where has the time gone? So folks, we are at the top of the hour. It is time to wrap this up. We had a really wonderful session. From what I thought initially would be a really hot topic to coming to a realization that, actually not a lot of people maybe in our community, I'm talking about, in our Hindu academic community, are very, very conversant with yoga. So it was a new thing for me. And it's nice, it helped us shape the discussion, ending up with a nice FAQ that rounded off the topic of the day. Now, if you, the viewers, have any topics that you would like us to discuss in the future, please do send us an email at Hindu, Manishbhai, what's the email? hindu@hinduacademy.org?
Yes.
Yes, it's hindu@hinduacademy.org. Yes, and so you can bring in your suggestions of any future topics that you'd like us to discuss in future sessions. Now, to end off the broadcast for today, I would like to share not one, but today I've got two quotes for you. One is this one, which is a bit suspect. I'm not sure Swami Vivekananda really said this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's attributed to him. It says, through practice comes yoga. And through yoga comes knowledge. Through knowledge comes love, and through love comes bliss. And that is, I suppose, the end goal of everybody who's looking to answer the questions, what's the purpose of life? And then I came across this other quote, which I really enjoyed as well. It says that yoga does not change just the way we see things, but it transforms the person who sees as well. I think that's a really deep and meaningful quote that helps to round off the session for today. As always, we wouldn't be able to do this without my super team here. So Manishbhai, Sitaben, Vijaybai, thank you so much. I know I put you on the spot sometimes with these rapid fire questions, but you did very, very well today. And the feedback I've got is also really nice. So thank you to all the viewers for joining us. I see the regulars and even people who are not able to make the session. It's nice that you're able to tune in. Just leave a comment that, sorry, I'm away for a function. I can't join you today, and I'll catch the replay. It's very, very nice. And I'm touched that you'd at least take your time out in your busy schedule to even just keep us updated. So we do miss you, and we will send out a search party if we don't see you. But till next week, we wish you well, and bye-bye for now.